Lounge.
Loud. Yeah, you need to quiet down. Too much energy there.
A little too much.
Back to the LCS Lounge.
You're good. You're good. No, I said it was my bad. I didn't say you need to quiet down. I said, "Oh, welcome to the lounge."
Yeah. I gotta be careful what I say now.
Yeah, you're good. Just do the show. I was reacting to my own mic pack.
Down,
Getting a little
Mark.
angry.
Let's check the standings heading into week 5. 6 games left, 12 games in the bag. We got a 2-way tie for first with Cloud9 and EG. Golden Guardians hot on their heels, skipping all the way to the bottom. FlyQuest and Immortals trying to keep their playoff hopes alive this week.
Playoffs time.
Not yet.
But I think
Playoffs excitement time.
I'm with Raz. All right, there's 8 teams in playoffs, and the 2 teams who might not make it in could be eliminated this week if they're not careful.
You know,
basically,
40% of our scheduled LCS split is playoffs.
Yeah. It's a big playoffs.
So this week is actually going to be, like, even though we're like, oh, it's almost the end of the season, it's more like, it's kind of like halfway through watching the LCS Summer Split.
That's only for those 8 teams.
Yeah, it's
and viewers.
After.
Well, and it's the teams that move on, they start getting eliminated. So, like, lengthwise, schedule-wise, we're halfway through, you could argue. But half the teams will be dead by 3/4 of the week.
We'll be looking at their games with a side eye.
You have that attitude going in. You're like, we're not even halfway through the split. We have so much room to grow, everybody.
I would be like, we are in deep trouble if that's how we're thinking.
Okay, these are the standings. We have had a question from social media for the hardcore fans.
Which one? Which social media?
So last week we flipped a coin.
Oh.
When we had 45 games left in the split. Emily flipped this coin 45 times.
Look at the consistent form.
To predict every single game.
So how are we doing?
It happened because we have it on video. This is definitive proof. How is it doing? We're going to check it. Is
How
it
are
beating
we
us?
doing?
Is it losing us? Because we're 15 games of the 45 in. So I'm not expecting it to be 15-0, but I am expecting it to be worse.
Stop making fun of me.
I believe that Emily did indeed. There we go.
There we go.
Oh, no, Mark.
Rip.
I'm tied with the coin. But Mark.
Huh? I don't know. We'll get there.
That's rough.
We'll get there.
This is a roughie.
Honestly, LCS Discord crushing it.
Jat being tied with the coin. When everything comes to light, Jat, one of us will actually be more embarrassed.
This is going to turn around for me.
Yeah?
Because I've been investing in FlyQuest.
Yeah.
Buy low, sell high. So I've just been buying FlyQuest. And if I didn't buy FlyQuest at all last week, I'd be 10-5. But I bought FlyQuest 3 times. And I'm going to keep doing it.
You're committing to it, which I appreciate. I appreciate that.
Well, that's depressing. I'd be in first if I didn't buy FlyQuest.
So the coin is kind of in the middle, yeah.
All right.
Thank God I'm not.
I'm surprised only because obviously the coin was not. There was no consideration for what team is actually better. Like it's literally just you're flipping a coin.
We just had a ton of upsets. That's the one that got me.
Yeah, we have had a lot.
We have a lot of upsets.
Which brings us to the question, who will actually make playoffs? We're going to bring back the playoff percentages full screen.
Huge!
This is not a probability. Mark, what would you call this?
This is a, what do we say, Doctor Strange number of scenarios in existence where this team makes playoffs.
And in every scenario, Cloud9 and EG are locked at least to tie for 8th. Congratulations.
And Golden Guardians is missing 0.02% chance. They are so close to locked.
Still a chance.
Yeah, still a chance. It's actually surprising that how 90-ish percentile most of these teams are. Like,
yeah,
it's actually pretty crazy how close to being finalized for the top 8 is.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the most concerning thing because after their 0-3 week, like we saw how much of a demonstrable impact the 3-0 week had on their chances. But now this pretty much looks like, okay, top 8 and then bottom 2 with how that's a huge variance between about 85% and about like 29%.
FlyQuest and Immortals trying to break out of prison. This is prison break.
It's a tough prison to break out of too, because when you see the actual the scores too, you know, FlyQuest is 2 games back on 100 Thieves and NRG, and they have a 0-2 against 100 Thieves, so they would lose a head-to-head.
3 games back of them.
Yeah, and then they're playing NRG today. If they lose that one, they're 0-2 against them as well.
Yeah.
So they're in deep hot water.
Yeah,
deep
and
doo-doo.
one thing I want to point out as well is with the playoff format, seeds 1 and 2, to me, are really, really important. They get a bye through the first upper bracket round, and what it essentially means is you just have to win 1 best of 5, and you're in Worlds. Obviously, it doesn't win you the split, But that is a long-term goal for most of these teams. So
yeah, that's huge.
There's going to be a big fight for that number 2 seed, I think, to keep the competition hot throughout the rest of the split. Another thing that happened last week is we had APA.
Appa.
Always playing
Yep.
Yeah, what is the yip yip?
Oh my God, you boomer.
Here it is. Yeah, Avatar: The Last Airbender, not Avatar: The Blue People.
Yeah, the good Avatar.
Yeah.
The good avatars.
Are they trying to get unobtainium?
No.
What?
Okay, I'm sorry.
I still haven't watched that movie,
Yeah,
but I
so
understood that reference.
So we had this nice tweet about APA's stats from the first 2 games. He's 11-0-14, which seems really incredible. So our stats guy Liam actually did a poll of the first 2 games of like every player, and he thinks these are the best ones. And it's actually kind of cool. Well, this goes way back. Remember, this is Sneaky.
Yeah, wow.
Deathless debut.
Like
Bloodwater
2013
in there.
summer.
Yeah, but still, highest KDA basically of all time outside Ignar, who's tied him at 25, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, let's try and think like what company does this put him in, or is this, do the names on this list make it seem like, oh wow, only the greats have done this, or is it kind of a little bit less consistent?
I would say it's a little random.
It looks a little random.
I think most of these players have had good careers. I think, Luger's the one with the least history, you could say, but like Ignar's actually had quite a good career. Sneaky, obviously. Reignover's been pretty good. Tactical has had his ups and downs, but had some high
but
moments.
Started consistently strong for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think like it's pretty good territory.
Yeah, I think it's good territory. Emily?
Oh no, I was gonna say I think it's interesting that that Luger had it for 2 splits straight, right? In terms of like debuting in the split, he had 2 splits on there. He's the only player with like 2 splits. I would not have expected that. He's not
debuted twice
in the league.
Yeah, now I'm
apparently.
confused.
Yeah, I don't know.
Goat of debuting.
Did I miss?
I did not.
Miss double Luger?
Every new day you come in,
we pull
you're a
that
new
back?
Okay,
you.
so it was 1 game. Producer got in my ear and said it was 1 game, 1 split, and then 1 game the next split.
That does not count, guys. That's
Yeah,
all.
that's why I was a little bit.
No.
Yeah.
But he.
No,
It's
so it
his
says
first 2 games.
yeah,
But they were split.
2021 summer and then 2022.
Thank you for clearing that up, because this is only your first 2 LCS games ever. It just so happened that Luger's first 2 LCS games are split apart.
Yeah, okay, I
I
got so
misunderstood.
confused.
I was like, how does that count?
Yeah.
Never mind.
We got there, everyone.
Yeah,
Thank you, production.
I
Appreciate it.
misread
On the
it.
topic of APA, though, he went at it a little bit with M&S.
Did he?
Oh.
M&S went at
Asked when
him.
LCS went hard. I mean,
Wednesday will
APA
be your
actually went
last
the whole
LCS
LCS
day.
first.
It's true, and to be fair, it hasn't looked that difficult for him yet. He did not play the hardest teams, but 100 Thieves in the playoff hunt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Mid laners were not strong. So, like, this is his actual test, in my opinion. Yes, you're going up against Balulu and Quid in your first 2 games. So, clearly, it was a good test for him. Also, the big shout out for me was the fact that he had a good mid jungle synergy alongside Pyosik. Pyosik has had a really good split so far.
Same
but
brain.
There it is.
They share a brain cell or something.
Yeah.
Because again, I know we pointed it
don't
out.
speak the same
yeah,
language.
in that one team fight where it's like they just both want to go in.
Yeah.
And they're obviously not talking about that. It's just they're both going in. I actually really appreciate that attitude from APA generally, from what I've seen of him, because the thing I do like about this TL team, even having criticized them for going too hard, is that they are incredibly aggressive. Like, they do like to go in. They do like to pick these fights. They do like to chase people down. And it seems like APA's style of play fits in really well with that.
Yeah.
I do want to look at this next thing, and then we'll continue, because we're still on the topic of APA. We're comparing his first 3 to Quid and Ruby this split, and I think this is really interesting in terms of setting the player you were bringing into the LCS in for success.
Yeah, you want to read this basically left to right. So Quid, his first opponent was JoJo. His next opponent was M&S, and his third opponent was Balulu.
I would argue those first 2 opponents are rather hard.
Well, and you can see the scoreline in the bottom right next to JoJo's name. He went 1-8-3 against JoJo, and then 2-4-1 against M&S, and then Balulu actually had a better game. And I think that's exactly the point that we're making here.
Right.
The first 2 opponents out of APA are not necessarily the most difficult opponents, potentially, in the LCS. And he's about to go up against M&S, who was the one throwing the smack talk at him. So
absolutely,
it's a much bigger test here for APA to see who he has to play against.
Rez?
Yeah, and so I know that Emily was talking about the team fighting aspect of how well they're kind of on the same wavelength, APA and Pyosik. In lanes, I feel like Pyosik has found good times to gank or just to be able to hover around when he's getting his wave pushed in. They just seem to be on the same page. Maybe it's as simple as what APA said. All you need to say is Pyosik help, and he's in your lane. But that has been a positive. And also the game versus Balulu, he didn't have a good laning phase, But the fact that you didn't have a good laning phase, but were able to recover and play well in team fights is actually impressive to me, to be able to not have that stuck in your head and be on constant nerves. Like Quid has mentioned, like he was nervous throughout his games and didn't necessarily play well. It felt like APA literally said he was nervous, but then recovered from that pretty quickly as the game went on.
To be fair, there's levels to not playing lane well. Like, okay, you jumped in and took a bad trade. It wasn't like the Quid's first game where he was pushing on the turret getting dove level 2. You know, like there's levels to being nervous and not playing well. And Quid obviously bounced back later on in his week. But I think the Balulu game for APA wasn't like his lane was bad. It wasn't like he inted. He didn't die in lane. He didn't die at all in the game. He took a bad trade or 2.
Yeah, I would also I hope this can be a learning experience for people that are making mid lane substitutions. You really do want to set the player up for success because, when you sub in what we had on that graphic, like Ruby, or even when Quid first comes in and you're immediately against the very best players. The Quid situation is a little different because Nuke Duck was never in competition for the mid lane spot. But when you're demoralizing a player by subbing him out, and giving a new player the first impression that is going to stick with so many people in the community, which eventually will make its way around to sticking with his teammates, you really, really, really want that to go well. Yeah. So it is actually, I think, worth it if your first game was supposed to be against JoJo to wait. Just keep your roster together for the hard game. See if they can pull it off. If you win, great, right? Yeah. But I feel like this gives APA such a better chance for success, the fact that they started him, because it felt like that substitution did feel rushed in the moment. Because it was a Thursday substitution. They lost the Wednesday game, then put him in Thursday. But I think the fact that they got to play Immortals right away, really good.
True.
That's all I'll say. We have another mid-lane sub, by the way.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah.
FlyQuest.
That is the relevant context.
Boom!
This is shocking news if you missed it, but Spyrax from their NACL roster is being pulled up to be the starting mid laner. There's been a lot of problems that we've seen with Vikla over the year, the split, A lot of people in the community had noted. He himself said he felt like he was the 10th worst mid laner. Speak on the Dive this week was talking about some of the differences between Scrim Vikla and Stage Vikla. Yeah. And it kind of felt like the writing on the wall. Yeah,
and I mean, I think Spyrax, obviously, he comes initially from Maryville University, but then has been with FlyQuest for a while. One thing that's really interesting is that he did not have a super hot start to this particular NACL season, but in their most recent games, he has been incredible. This entire FlyQuest Challengers team is actually quite good, and he has been a major part of their success. I think what he can hopefully bring to the mid, or what FlyQuest might be looking for him to bring to mid, is a little bit more stability on meta picks, potentially the Azir, obviously, which you just saw, the Tristana, and then to the stuff that Spica said in the Dive that I thought was super interesting, actually, Mark, was how he talked about how he'd only worked with experienced mids. And another interesting thing was that Vikla, not only is there a communication barrier, but he doesn't have a lot of experience, right? He just started playing on KT last year as a rookie, and that was his rookie split. That is not necessarily something that's going to be solved with Spyrax, but he has a significant amount of experience in collegiate and academy.
Yeah, and the communication aspect, I think, is going to be a big one. Being able to work alongside Speak is going to be that last replay we showed of them basically collapsing on Maokai going into their jungler. It was instant. Him and Yuji, I thought, were on the same page pretty quickly. And I felt like that's been something that Spyrax has been good on from the Maryville days and on to FlyQuest Challengers, is working with his junglers well enough and having the diverse champion pool to make it so any mid-jungle duo can kind of fit. And I think that's what they need right now. So even if Vikla in Spring Split, I think, was a pretty high bar. I think Spyrax probably won't be where Vikla was in Spring, where that was the strength for them as a team. I think for sure he will get to that point. He's working towards it. The journey of Spyrax has been a strong one. And that's what they need to actually get the engine going.
Well, yeah, I feel like in terms of what they need out of him is just stability and kind of like a honeymoon phase to kick in for the rest of the team. Because I definitely don't think you can put this guy in and be like, okay, now save our season. Just coming in, young North American player, mid lane, hey, just go fix all our problems, of which there are a plethora to pick from. I think what he hopefully will provide them is a bit of a refresh for the whole team's mentality. He will be able to play stable in the mid lane, not have some of the run it down moments that we've seen out of Vikla, and then Spica can actually play better, and Prince and Volk can figure out whatever the hell is wrong with them, because they're supposed to be one of our best bot lanes, and they're absolutely not, and you can't just pin that on Vikla. Same way there, it's there's a lot of problems with this team, and it's on them to fix them, while Spyrax just works on his own stuff in the mid lane.
Absolutely, and that's why, to me, the first thing to take note of is how they draft. I want to see if they draft differently around it, because right now they're a pretty slow-paced team. And a lot of it is like there's not a lot of action happening from jungle.
I don't think they're going to pick it up with Spirax in the mid lane.
Might not. No. He is somebody that is, I think, a little bit more of a risk taker. Maybe not as Vikla. Vikla was the risk taker.
I was like, I don't know about that. I was going to say, I liked what Mark said in terms of they are just looking for stability. If they want to play this slower paced style, hopefully he would be able to be a little bit more stable in mid while also looking for those plays with Spica.
Well, that was the weird thing, because in Spring Split, Vikla sure was a risk taker and was dying a few times, but he was doing well. In this split, it feels like he has been playing. That's one of the things that they've talked about, which is like
scared.
He's been playing scared, a lot safer, and I feel like maybe Spirax coming in is going to be different. So I'm interested to see what the draft will look like if they actually play around mid a little bit. That's going to be usually the newest voice is the most silent. So.
I want to look at the schedule for today as we continue talking about the FlyQuest conversation, because we've seen who everyone gets to debut against. Spirax will be debuting against Palafox.
Palafaker.
Which is
a mid battle.
It's an okay game to open against, because this is also kind of the biggest game for them in regards to playoffs.
This is the most important game remaining for them. This is your direct competition, someone who you're probably going to want to leapfrog over the standings, as well as someone who, if you lose to, you're 0-2 and you'll have to win by over an extra game now if you lose the head-to-head.
I'm liking the corrupt prison guard analogy here. Because they're the one that's keeping FlyQuest down.
I'm liking the corrupt prison guard analogy.
What is the analogy?
Who introduced the corrupt prison guard analogy?
Well, me, that's why I like it.
Wait.
You have to make the analogy.
What is it?
I did. I said it was a prison guard.
Right, but if you're in prison in your FlyQuest and the corrupt guard, are they helping you or hurting you?
Oh, they're keeping you down. But if they get ahead of you, if they get above you,
the abuse of
yeah, they're trying to keep you down in the prison.
They're not helping you out of prison.
Prison is
they're keeping you in.
Okay.
But of course, they have to be put in prison themselves. That's when if they get outed as being corrupt, then they're back. They're in jail.
I mean, this is any playoff race ever.
I've connected the dots that you made, and I don't like this analogy anymore. This is a bad analogy, Raz.
That's a great analogy.
It's a great analogy. It's a bad analogy.
I've connected the dots. You haven't connected.
Yeah. I need to start doing that. I'm liking this analogy right now.
It's like, what's the analogy?
Once I followed the breadcrumbs Raz put down, I was like, wait a minute, where did you lead me? I don't like where this
So speaking of NA mids.
Let's go.
I mean, honestly, there's been a huge resurgence. What was the stat you had earlier, Emily?
Oh, yeah. So I looked it up. This is the first time we've had more, 50% or more mid laners in the LCS be NA mids. So this does not include mids like Jensen and Bjergsen, who were obviously like grandfathered in, right?
Yeah.
And it's the first time since 2021 summer, I believe, which Insanity was also part of. He was just part of Immortals.
Which surprised me because I didn't remember 2021 summer as being the summer of NA.
I didn't remember it being as recent. And then I looked up, or not I looked up, shout out to Liam, who actually looked this up for me. We found out that only 30% of total NA splits have had 50% or more NA mid laners.
So it's still a big minority of times that it happens.
Yes.
It's just been a little bit more often than we realized.
At least right now, though, it does feel a little bit different because I think they're finding more success. Insanity was 3-0 last week and is now 6-3 with TSM, APA 2-0. We'll yet to see what Spirax does, but let's talk a little bit about Insanity because he had a pop-off week.
I think that's a great point, is that this is the first time with JoJo potentially being first-team All-Pro. You know, Gory and Eminence are obviously in the conversation, but then Insanity is kind of the second-place guy that you're talking about.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, North American pro history who have been in All-Pro conversation, it's like Poe Belter. In like high, and that's realistically it. Like Demonte, Golden Glue,
2015.
Yeah, these guys who were the other NA mids during these kinds of times where we had plenty of NA mids, they were not in the conversation as best mids in the region. I think that's the case right now, that a lot of them are actually stepping up and performing extremely well. Insanity being maybe the most surprising, given that we all knew JoJo could be a superstar.
Yeah, and we were concerned going into the last week that the vibes were ruined. You bring Insanity back and the damage had already been done, and that wasn't the case whatsoever. It felt like, yes, a lot of the strength in those games were through Insanity, and I think one game in particular, I think it was the Yone game where he was really lifting a lot. He was 1v9ing a bit. So it's, to your point, it's nice to see for a player like him who's been around since the last time when he was on Immortals to find improvement that he's vocalized, he's talked about. And still grinded, and now he's here again, and it's the fans are supporting it because they recognize he's here and he deserves it.
And And I also think another demonstrable impact he's had is kind of around draft and what they're drafting him as well, but just his ability to push in mid has allowed for so much more creativity from Bugi, right? Because coming in, we're like, Bugi is going to be this jungler who looks for opportunities, is going to be a lot more like River, where he wants to interact with his lanes, and having pressure in mid from Insanity has been massive for Bugi also looking significantly better this split.
Yeah, Insanity won Player of the Week last week. I know Emily sat down with him. That'll be later on in the show. But on the topic of roster changes and this game, Poome
gang!
He's actually back.
He is.
So he was playing last split. Now he's on Dignitas. He's jumped out of the plane. He's finally landed.
That's not a secret anymore.
Now, Poome's mission, if you choose to accept it, is to get Jensen to Worlds.
Why did the picture we picked for Jensen just have him laughing with the metal detector?
Because he just found his ticket to Worlds, and it's Poome.
And he sees him skydiving down.
Yeah, I know. It's a mixed metaphor.
He's landing on the beach.
Like, this could be the document of, like, top secret, get this player to Worlds, and it's just this dude on the beach with a metal detector.
I mean,
that's pretty tough.
It is one of those also weird scenes where someone finds this at the same time the parachute comes in. I don't know. But I will say, for people who don't know, Jensen is the most Worlds attending player of all time,
8
actually.
consecutive Worlds.
And yeah, consecutive is the big one, because him and double-elimination are tied, I think, at 8 for the players who have attended Worlds the most of any region, any player. But it's the consecutive thing, and that's why, you know, it's on Poome here to kind of help Dignitas get over the hump right now. They are in a hunt for that kind of 4th-ish spot, it feels like, with Team Liquid in teams, TSM as well. So with Poome coming in.
Yeah, I think this is another team that's hoping to get some level of honeymoon phase, because they've actually been much improved from Spring Split.
Yeah.
But Diamond has been dying a lot in their game, so they're bringing in Poome. They're going to lose the Tomo Diamond synergy, which they'd actually been building up for over a year, but they will be bringing in that fresh face. A face that is not as fresh, but is very familiar, is WildTurtle.
What a segue. I appreciate that.
After this game starts, he will actually set the LCS all-times game record. And to commemorate the occasion, we actually sat down with WildTurtle to get a little bit of a history on how he got into League and some of his fondest memories.
I still remember the first game I played League. I played Sivir because I thought it was like a champion similar to a Dota hero called Luna. I think you unlocked like Flash at like level 12. Like your summoner level had to be like level 12. And I was like, how come I don't get Flash? I'm like level 1 summoner, I just can't. And then I looked at the Rise's items, I remember, and he had like an Amp Tome. So I'm like, okay, I have to buy an Amp Tome to Flash. So I buy an Amp Tome and it's like, I just can't Flash. I'm like, I don't know what's up with this. That was like my first memory, like my fondest memory, like first starting League. My mom was definitely against it. She didn't want me to like drop out of high school to do this thing. It just didn't make sense for her. And English is like not her first language too, so she's just like, what is this thing? This doesn't make any sense. Like, how are you flying across the world and like doing whatever? And then but I think at the end, like I ended up convincing her, so it just worked out. It was more just like, you get high ELA and then like, you know, there's like a lot of people just like forming random teams. Like I was like forming teams too. I think on Monomaniac, I actually started off as like a mid laner, like an AD carry, but like there was like those are like really hot roles, so like you couldn't like become like pro at that role. So I'm like, fine, I'll be a fill player. And then I decided to play like professionally as a top laner first. For me, it was kind of like, I never really had the dream of becoming like a pro player. I kind of just like to be good at video games, just like to have fun and, you know, learn things every day. So that's kind of what it was for me when I was like starting off in League. And then when I found out like, hey, I could actually maybe become a pro, it's just like, yeah, I'm gonna go for the opportunity. So I went for it. Back in 2013, I thought it was like, hey, this is like my last year playing pro. So that went on for like a while. I was like, all right, this is my last year. Like, if I don't make it this year, I'm done. And then it just keeps going. So yeah, it's honestly been a little bit shocking that I've been able to hold a career in esports for this long, because I know many other players have like very short careers and stuff like that. So,
what's your favorite memory of playing League?
It might be in one of the finals. It was against TL when I stole the Baron on Jinx. I think we were like losing that game and then just like stealing the Baron. I think like I just felt like so much pressure that entire game. It's just like we were just like losing, and then I ended up stealing the Baron and we just turned it around. I think it was a very important match too. I think they were up 2 games or something like that as well. I think for League, at least for the LCS, it's like you have an off season and you have an on season. So during the off season, I tried to, you know, learn things and become a better person and just open my mind to the world, I guess. So I think that's like the major difference for me. I just like exploring a lot. I think even in 2020 or 2019. I think I had that little segment in like when I came to interview and just try to do new things. So that was like one of the things I like to try. So no, I think for me about my legacy is like I've always wanted to win Worlds. Obviously every player says that, but like for me it's like I always wanted that trophy. And honestly, the only time we were really close was I think 2014 to like potentially like winning more. We were like top 8, and I just want to have that taste again and make it back there. I think I was always a little bit chill, but I think the biggest part about, you know, a contributing factor to that is like, I've actually never had a break like in LCS ever. So like 2022 when Immortals dropped me, I didn't even look for like another team for the summer split of that year. I was just like, I'm just gonna take a break. And then I had TSM reach out to me about this opportunity again. And I was like, maybe, yeah, I'll give Academy a try. And then, you know, I worked my way up again. And I think staying in Academy definitely helped like reintroduce like my love for the game. I just love the competition, and I think going from Academy going back all the way up to LCS, I just feel like I'm on the curve to improve now, so it feels pretty nice. I mean, I guess I can just say the turtle never dies, you know? Just keeps on going very slowly, but surely wins the race. I mean, I just want to do a big thank you to the fans for sticking around with me for so long in the LCS, and I hope you guys can still enjoy the entertainment.
Great to see WildTurtle still at it. I remember his first game of the LCS back in 2013. Pentakill in his first game.
I remember the first time he was playing competitive matches on Gragas mid.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
It was in San Francisco. Anyways, we are 2 minutes from watching WildTurtle break the LCS record that Bjergsen had previously broken last split when Turtle wasn't in LCS.
Taking it from his old teammate.
He's taking it back. But let's look at the predictions. Do we think he's going to win in this game?
Oh, there's a lot of changes.
Some people think so.
50-50. Right down the middle.
Oh my God.
I mean,
this is a banger day. Look at this.
Wow.
It is a very good day. Obviously, Dig versus TSM, I think they're tied at 6-6 in the standings. GG versus EG is also battled near the top of the table. Then Fly Energy, we talked about the prison guard situation that is going down right there.
Yep. And
C9 versus TL is close. Like, this is an insane day.
We have a lot of close matches. Mark, we're still on to you.
What do you mean? TL has a chance. They literally beat them last time, and now they have a more consistent mid lane.
I think the one
Immortals,
that's more
100
egregious
Thieves?
is Immortals.
You look at some 100 Thieves early game stats, it's not that egregious.
I mean, have you seen their bloodiness rating? You know, these kinds of things.
But I still predict 100 Thieves. Mark is trolling. He's last place in predictions for a reason. That's why you're trying to make the comeback.
What? That's my counter argument.
That was not a strong one.
I think the more important thing to focus on is game one. I really think TSM versus Dig is a huge match for playoff implications in terms of who will have a leg up in playoffs to try and chase. I mean, they're not out of title contention. I think we all just kind of ignore them for some reason, but it's more like, okay, Worlds is the number one thing on your checklist.
Yeah.
Number two is, can you make it to the finals?
Yeah, and I'm interested in just consistency of either teams. Dignitas has been a perplexing one because in some games they look really good. Some games, you know, they're running it down. So I'm interested to see the consistency there as, you know, Evil Geniuses, a few of those players, Revenge and Unforgiven, just watching the games.
The juice boxes were a nice touch. I want to see if Insanity can keep his hot streak alive. I mean, he's 6-3. He's really been pumping out wins.
Dark Horse MVP!
Interesting.
That's the darkest horse of a lifetime.
It's a pretty dark horse.
That's a pitch black horse.
Sven Skaren, played with him for 2.5 years, I would say. We have a lot of brotherhood and bonding that we've been through together.
He was a really good teammate of mine in 2017 spring. One of the best junglers at the time.
I mean, me and Hauntzer have both won 3 trophies together. We were both stuck in the past on TSM. WildTurtle as well won 1 together.
Made a pretty historic run.
And here he is now doing the coaching stuff. So I hope he's a good addition for Dignitas.
Rich, knocked back onto 4 players, and immediately all out back over the wall. Unforgiven's dead, Ayla's dead, Armeo's dead, and Evil Geniuses are all down.
So we're going to be going up against TSM. They have Hauntzer and WildTurtle, who I really want to beat. Yeah, I mean, I think they're great guys, but I have way better team now.
4JJ gets a nice grand entrance on the backside of it, and they're trying to take out Jensen. Summit scoops him on up, and Jensen's gone. 4JJ gets traded on out, but Tomo's still alive, and he's firing right off back.
TSM is one of those teams that we need to get a win over for our playoff standings, so every game matters right now.
Kenby wants to get away, and there's just no hope. Treats dies next, a double kill back over the turtle.
I mean, TSM has some cocky players that we can definitely take advantage of. I think Rich is gonna really humble Kevin, aka Hauntzer.
Dignitas is an interesting team. I think they have a really good top laner. but the rest of the team doesn't really match up to his level. I think their bot side is going to have quite a bit of trouble.
They need to find this. There it is. Flash engage finds 2. Hauntzer's gonna go and Chime follows up. 2 immediately killed on the side of Team Liquid. And TSM just got paid.
It's a good day to play some League of Legends here at the LCS. 2 more weeks to go on the regular season and things are getting tight for these teams. I'm Gabby. This is Azael. How's it going?
It's going well. It's kind of crazy that we're coming towards the end of the split already, right? It feels like it's going by so fast. Both these teams tied in the standings right now, 6-6. But it has to be said, TSM with Insanity is actually 6-3. So they have been really, I think, surprising a lot of people, especially compared to the preseason expectations. I had TSM in 10th. I think a lot of people had them down 9th, 10th, 8th. But with Insanity, the team I think has really been working well. Insanity has brought a lot of proactivity to the table for them. And Dignitas is going to be a good challenge for them. We're going to be able to see, can they take them down, continue their climb, up towards the top of the table, or is Dignitas going to be able to get an important win for themselves? Both these teams battling around the middle of the pack, both of them going to be fighting for that upper bracket advantage. So these important wins, they've got to be grabbing them.
And both experiencing those changes in roster, but different ways. You just noted Insanity coming back into the fold in mid lane, but Poome on the opposite side, taking to the stage for the first time since he was back on CLG. I think I missed the sign. What was so funny?
Said I was forced to be here.
Forced to be here. Oh no.
Poome, Poome swapping back in. It's going to be an interesting change for them. Unfortunate for Diamond that he has been subbed out. Diamond obviously had a really good run, every time he's been in the NACL, but has not really been able to make it work to the degree that he wanted on the LCS stage. So Poome going to be coming back, was with CLG last split. Did get replaced there as they changed over to Energy and replaced the bot lane. So now he's going to have an opportunity to move in here, and we'll see how he's going to work with Tomo. I can't imagine they've had a tremendous amount of time to actually play together. So, have to find out exactly how well they will be working together.
Yeah, both of these are players that we have only recently seen with those kind of long-standing duos. Of course, Diamond and Tomo working on their previous synergy, but Poome, even when he was on CLG, it was he and Luger together for quite some time. And if you remember back to when Poome first made his appearance in the LCS, he was one of the fastest rising from amateur, coming into the LCS as a fresh face and really off of the name that he created as being a strong engage. And now with a different look, a different partner, we'll see if we get a different player or the same. Yeah,
absolutely. I think Dignitas overall has also had a pretty good split. I know some of these players have very high expectations of themselves. Jensen in the interviews is quick to kind of downplay how they're doing. They are at 500. He's obviously been on a lot of good teams. He's won a lot of championships, so his expectations may be higher than that. But again, I think Dignitas is another team that people did not really see doing a lot of damage, especially after their spring split where they looked really weak, where some of the veterans on this team were not performing to the level that you would really expect from them. I do think both Jensen and Santorin are overall having a better summer split. Rich has been a big addition to the team. He's really been performing well. And, Tomo, I think, is definitely outperforming what we saw from Spawn in spring split. So have been some upgrades for the squad, and we just have to see if they can kind of build upon that consistency, and try to climb their way up, because it has been kind of up and down, I think, for both of these squads at times.
Yeah, and both of these are teams that have some fresh talent coming to the table, but also working off of these veteran duos, just in different regards, right? We have Santorin and Jensen on the Dignitas side, but for TSM, Hauntzer has been a consistent player in that top side, of course, sticking to the Malphite to start off the season on a good footing. And then over on bot, WildTurtle, whether he's on Jinx or kind of catering to whatever TSM is looking for in terms of draft, has been that consistent player, a carry for them to work around. And Insanity of being that proactive mid laner that you mentioned, and having that lens on this squad. But we'll see if TSM can continue their streak. They're coming off of the 3-0 of the previous week. Dig did, of course, pick up that victory at the tail end against FlyQuest, but are looking to make more as we finish out the banning phase.
Yep, it's going to be the 6th straight Renekton game, actually, for Hauntzer now. So he has just been, he was on the Malphite a lot at the start of the split, and he's just been going towards Renekton nonstop every single game since then. They did ban out the Rumble, one of those counters that we're seeing become a lot more popular up in the top lane. Rumble is getting very popular around the world, is a strong answer, especially when people are playing those kind of more aggressive lane styles. Ignite, Comet can be pretty difficult for the Renekton to deal with. so he will not be having to deal with that. I'm interested to see if this is going to end up being, Poppy top. Are they going to go for something else for Rich? What sort of a matchup will he bring to the table here?
Yeah, I mean, Rich has been somebody who's willing to play to the meta, whether it's playing a ton of games of Cassante to really kind of build that good rapport and that, basically confidence the team has in him, or bringing in something different here with the Gangplank.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, he already drew a couple bans, for a couple of the picks that he's brought out that have been different. The Rumble, as I said, a number of people are playing it, but he was banned out on both the Quinn as well as the Alawi, and now is going to go towards the GP. So really cool here. We are going to have Rell, almost guaranteed his Rell support. No reason to really put Poppy down there. But Rell, of course, still waiting for a first Rell jungle in the LCS. Has been really popular in solo queue. Is talked about pretty highly as one of those flex picks, but has not been getting grabbed up for that role thus far. Insanity going to be bringing out another marksman in the mid lane. Has really been kind of known for his Graves, I think, in the LCS. He was the first person, I think, to ever play it in the LCS, to play the mid Graves, and has played a number of games of it already. Has the 3 games on it. Brought out the Tristana last week, which looked quite good. So now going to be bringing out the Kai'Sa. Very likely will be the AP Kai'Sa variant. It's really popular. We're seeing it in mid lane. We're seeing it in bot lane. Going for that early W evolve. Static Shiv can be really powerful here as well. I'm not sure if he's going to go Static Shiv. I'm assuming it's just going to be Static Shiv Nashers, which is kind of what we're seeing most people go for. But there are some people who are just doing Mythic Rushes and like full-on W poke. But it'll be interesting to see how he's able to pilot it.
I mean, coming off of 2 full weekends of NACL casting, I gotta tell you, it feels like Kai'Sa was in every single game, but most likely leaning towards that mid lane positioning, and that's where we will see it in this matchup between Dignitas and TSM. As we mentioned, they are neck and neck in the standings, 6-6. So this is their chance to kind of put themselves at the top of the table or start fighting towards some of the bottom. I love seeing Poome wave from the stage. I'm sure it's a good feeling for him to be back here.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice for him to make his return to the LCS, and we'll see if it's going to be a victorious one here against TSM. Both teams with some pretty strong engage. I will say TSM has a lot of engage options, though. Not only can there be flanks from the Renekton, but Nautilus jungle, really powerful engage. You have the Rakan as well here. You have the Ashe arrow, so a lot of tools there for TSM to find fights, to choose them on their own terms. But they are, I would say a little bit lower as far as the damage kind of is concerned. Ashe, I think Ashe from ahead can really do well, but Ashe, when you get put behind, can really struggle to actually put out consistent damage. Renekton is kind of hit or miss. It's more, I think, going to be emphasis on Insanity, whereas the GP is going to be bringing a tremendous amount of damage to the table here on Dignitas' side.
As all members of Dignitas await to see if TSM attempt to come for an early invade for some vision acquisition.
And WildTurtle now with this game, I think surpasses Bjergsen for most games LCS all time. So 612 games played now for WildTurtle in his career. A pretty incredible career. We saw that piece on him earlier today. And I'm so impressed by the longevity of the career and also the consistency with which he's been able to play at that level. It is not easy.
Oh, and a good start for TSM to attempt to get Jensen here, but Poome stepping in front of Tomo. As TSM venture into the enemy jungle, ward thrown down by both sides, but will get swept out.
Yeah, and they're going to be able to actually force Jensen back to base. He's going to have to use his TP at level 1. That is a terrible start. And they're going to be able to steal away the Raptors here. So really good stuff from TSM, getting aggressive early on. We'll see how many camps Bugi is going to look to take on this bot side. Of course, he did start Q to do that, so that is why they were helping him so much on that leash. But this is not a good trade for Jensen either, and you have to be so careful after having to force out that TP early on. Bugi will at least do the red buff as well. Likely just going to do 3 camps bot and try to play split map, but we'll see what the response is from Santorin, because Santorin right now, he just immediately gave up the camps on bot side, knew he wasn't going to be able to challenge when Jensen had been pushed back. But if he can't actually cross map and go towards top side and steal away the Raptors or something, he's going to be very far behind.
Tomo getting a bit chunked. Chime still going for it, and now both summoners taken away from Tomo and forcing the back as well.
Yeah, able to actually get that pretty easily. The early ignite went down, he had to cleanse it, he's getting slowed up by Turtle, and those slows ended up forcing the flash, and it's going to force the base as well. It's one of those things where you're just disrespecting the level 2 that is coming through. TSM hit that earlier, and it's going to be pretty punishing for Tomo because Bugi's down on that bot side, so he's going to do that 3-camp clear. And honestly, Bugi and Chime should probably just move between the pillars.
Oh, Santorin, flash for flash, does manage to root with the ethereal chains as Santorin's here for the follow-up. First blood drawn by Dignitas.
Nicely done by Dig, but like we got to look back towards the bot side because they're just going to stand between the towers, right? They can't even approach the wave. So he's still level 1 against a level 3 WildTurtle. They lost a plate, and this is going to be 4 or 5 waves that are actually denied. Santorin's going to come down, but I don't even think they can walk to the tower with Santorin, to be honest with you, because they're still level 1. They can't fight.
Manages to grab Poome up and tries to tag him with a Riptide.
So
Santorin
bad.
has rotated towards his bot laners, but still, TSM have asserted the pressure. Look at those plates go down, Azael.
Yeah, they get 2 plates already 3 minutes in, and a 2-level lead. It's going to be nearly 2 full levels ahead here for Turtle. A ridiculous advantage, plus all the farm that he actually has in pocket here. His buy is going to be much more powerful, so if TSM go back to base here, push out this wave, it's going to be a huge advantage for them on the bot side. So yes, first blood does go the way of Dignitas, but way more was gained from TSM on the bot side, and that is pretty devastating here for Poome and Tomo. Not the start that they were looking for, you know, get pushed out at level 1. And then because the map had already been split, Bugi was already clearing on that bot side, they can't even get back towards the turret. So they're just almost completely out of this game.
And TSM's bot lane having that lead when the Dragon's going to be spawning in 5 minutes. It's a good way to keep that pressure up. WildTurtle, a focal point of this squad, disrespecting, what is it, the 615th game buff that he's got. Trying to follow up with a play with Bugi, making a visit towards his bot side, and Tomo still does not have the summoners from that previous aggression, so WildTurtle draws a kill of his own.
Yeah, great job there by Bugi, just attacking that weak lane down on the bot side. They were already put way behind. They knew he had no summoners, so they find the flash hook, and Turtle gets the kill, adding insult to injury, so Tomo is just so behind. This is going to be a tall mountain to climb here for Dignitas if they're going to be able to get back in this one, because their AD carry is just almost completely out of it, and Poome can actually just straight up die here. He's got to be a little bit careful.
Crash down from Poome, but delayed in his chance to get out of that one, marked so low by Chime, who was just having a support on support crime.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. It was good at the end of the day by Poome because he holds the wave, so he saves a couple more minions there for Tomo. I was just getting a bit nervous because, you know, maybe one more Q, one more auto. Chime had the Ignite. So potentially, if you get hit by a little bit more damage there, the Ignite could finish you off even through that crash down shield. But Poome had it calculated, does stay safe, preserves a few minions there for his AD carry, and he's going to need every single one that he can find.
Now, when there's been that much pressure on the bot side, a recent visit from the enemy jungle, then good on the support to make sure that he minimizes losses for the lane to give Tomo an opening to try and bring it back to an equal point. Though, of course, there has been significant warding from TSM around this dragon, which is why they feel the confidence to be able to draw it out. Poome making sure to sweep on the backside of this pit, but not enough confidence from Dignitas to be able to step up towards this dragon.
I mean, there's just no way. Your bot lane is so far behind, and you look at the buys, it's tier 2 boots fully above what your opponents have. So it's like 1100 gold in combat power above what Tomo actually has right now this early on. So no way for them to really walk up and try to fight. Tomo also still has no flash, so it could be a very easy kill if he did actually show up. So at the end of the day, they will just push out mid. Rich doing okay up here on this top side. You know, every time we come up, he's kind of winning out in some of these trades, but of course Hauntzer has had the push, and Hauntzer is up some farm as a result. I do think this is one of those games that's going to potentially come down to that like first GPL, you know, trying to get a play on bot side. It looks like they may look for some sort of a fight down here. Try to use a cross map ulti, try to find a big play where you can get a shutdown potentially on Turtle, you know, slow him down. Because I think if they can't get Tomo back into it, it's going to be so hard in the 5v5s later on with him this far behind.
But you are exactly right to call out when Rich is going to use that first cannon barrage and where it's going to be, because that is a great way to just affect a whole nother portion of the map without having to unlock yourself from that top side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Rich, I think, is doing fine so far on the top side. So, you know, if he can get towards a quick first item, you know, you can be a big game changer on that Gangplank. Obviously, LeBlanc got that first blood, so Jensen going to be working towards his Shiv, which has maintained its popularity despite all of the nerfs. Not going to be able to connect with the chain, but nice sidestep there on the Void Seeker, so Jensen will stay safe. So it's going to be a lot of emphasis on the solo lanes here for Dignitas, and they just have to make that decision. Can we salvage bot lane, play towards Tomo, get him back in the game, or do we just kind of have to abandon ship, allow him to try to just get whatever farm he can, and focus more towards our solo lanes?
What have you been making of how the junglers have spent the time thus far? Because obviously Bugi having that focus towards bot to get that early lead, and Santorin maybe looking towards these solo lanes for something.
Yeah, I think Bugi did a really good job. Obviously, was that team plan? As Bugi looks for the Hex Flash there, trying to find Jensen, couldn't do it. Bugi has been fairly proactive, and that's what you want to do on this Nautilus. I really like the game plan. Level 1 invade from TSM, split the map, go down towards bot side. Even if they hadn't actually been able to force Tomo back, they could have threatened to dive there because they were zoning him off the XP. He still would have been level 1. So I think the game plan was there from Bugi, and I like the attempts over towards mid now, just protecting Insanity, trying to put him in a good position here, as he had been the one that was focused by Santorin. As for Santorin, I think he did a good job kind of recovering from that early game. Not much you can do to defend your bot side from that dive when you've been pushed out of the bot side jungle, but got some camps back, got a kill for first blood in mid lane for his LeBlanc. So I think doing the best that he can with a pretty bad start.
Right now, pushed off of this Rift Herald because Chime was ready for the collapse from mid as Bugi was rotating from that top side. So just making sure that presence was known so that TSM could ensure that Dignitas couldn't have too much of an advantage up here.
Yep, absolutely. Bugi now playing up towards that top side. Chime has rotated, and they're going to try to use Hauntzer to just push out this wave, take that Herald, but Dignitas is moving over here. If Turtle is bot, there's not a gold lead. He is the gold lead.
On it, going in for the stun up, knock up onto one, and the return from Chime. All the while, the enchanted crystal arrow coming from downtown. Where does it land? Up top towards Rich. Can Hauntzer make something of it? Meanwhile, Poome setting the play up for Santorin and Jensen. Santorin achieves a kill onto Bugi, which means there's no jungler to contest this Herald. Chime has to be careful. Hauntzer coming in for the assist, stunned up as he slices and dices out of there, but Jensen gets the lockdown, returns the kill. A double offered by Insanity, though, for TSM, as they are still thirsty for blood, and bring it back with another onto the enemy mid laner.
Yeah, TSM able to get a big fight there. Turtle actually moved up. He came all the way up, and Tomo stayed down on bot. So even though the initial play was looking pretty good for Dig, the Enchanted Crystal Arrow forces the flash out of Rich because he didn't actually have his orange available. I believe he had already used it on a Renekton stun. So he's forced to flash back. Turtle makes that long distance rotation. You can see on the minimap, the early play was going towards Dignitas, but here comes Turtle. He shoots the arrow, and he's actually moving up from bot lane. Tomo has no prio. The wave is at his turret, so he can't actually move. This connects and forces the flash. Hauntzer's able to turn around, so he's pushed out. Then, it's just this long extended play where Dignitas do get a kill. They do go back onto the Herald. They're able to collect that. But all of a sudden, Turtle arrives. Rich has been pushed out. There's not really a way for them to actually take this fight. Sure, they're able to get that kill down onto Hauntzer, but they have no sustained DPS, and both the AD carries here for TSM are safe. And Hauntzer's feeling good about that, knows the fight is looking pretty good. And now both your ADs are really fed. 2 kills on Turtle, 2 kills on Insanity. TSM are right where they want to be.
Yep, over 1,000 gold for the TSM side off of that, though Dignitas was able to pick up that Rift Herald. We will see where Santorin decides to throw that. There's still 3 minutes available for these plates before they fall. But good play from TSM, good use of the ultimate from WildTurtle, and I think that when celebrating a player like this that has been so long standing in the lead, you love to see it. Pausing on that thought, though, as Hauntzer runs into some trouble. Has to use the Dominus here to heal up, and Rich does have Jensen coming this way.
Yeah, that was actually really close because Hauntzer popped the ulti right as it came up, so he didn't actually have that ulti in the early moments of that fight when Rich was getting pretty ahead. It was a tier 2 boots rush for the Renekton, so pretty standard, but it meant that Rich had the earlier first item completion, has that Essence Reaper already done, so is going to be pretty strong in these trades, and it can be difficult for melee champions if you're getting constantly poked and prodded away at. Turtle here just farming even more plates on that bot side while Chime and Bugi are there to zone. Tomo knows that they're around, so he's got to walk up slowly, but it's another plate going the way of TSM, and you can see a 1,500 gold lead already going to Turtle. They're going to have to drop the Herald mid to get some plates back, but it's not going to be anything close to a full tower. It is just going to be that crash for 2 plates. So a little bit of gold for Jensen, a little bit of gold for Santorin, but not making too much of a dent on the lead that TSM still have established for themselves.
Yeah, all of the turrets are currently still standing, so some standing gold on the map, but TSM, they do have the dragon advantage, the gold advantage overall, and the gold in the right pockets, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
WildTurtle feeling pretty good as he finishes off the Kraken Slayer just now.
And Infernal is going to be really, really nice, if they can actually get up towards that soul. So easy to apply with the Ashe volley, with the Kai'Sa poke. So a lot of tools just kind of poke and prod with that. Will be very difficult for Dignitas to come back from if they do, in fact, end up giving it up. You can see Insanity just constantly shoving out through mid, trying to keep Jensen pushed in. He doesn't want Jensen to be able to move into fog. He doesn't want Jensen to be able to kind of link up with Santorin and look for plays, because that's one of the ways that Dignitas could get some purchase in this game.
And if you're on the TSM side, though, feeling pretty good about trying to sustain the advantages that you have created. I think also when emphasizing the power with which WildTurtle is coming through. Insanity, there's been a lot to celebrate about his return to the roster. I will make note, though, a bit after Hauntzer tries to follow up on this play by Bugi, the keeper's verdict to send him downtown. So Hauntzer all alone can't stand up against this.
Yeah, that was a great ult from Santorin. Yeah. Knocks 2 members out. It looked like it was going to be a TSM positive play. They had the extra man up on the top side, but a huge ult from Santorin knocks both Chime and Bugi away and allows them to get that kill onto Hauntzer. That was perfect play from Santorin.
And Santorin, when looking at Dignitas' victories, I think it's that return to that proactivity that we want to see from him, being a playmaker for the Dignitas side, and especially with Jensen having some standout performances. I think on the recent game against FlyQuest, on that Jace 10-1-3, and showed that not only can he be strong on the classic picks we like to see from him, like the control mages, but really beginning to vary it up. But Santorin's at the core and really being able to kick these off.
Yeah, this is just perfect because you want to create this 2v1. It's actually so much better to be able to get this knockout than hitting all 3. So he gets the knockout on 2, finds the stun onto Hauntzer, who's already in that GP ulti. They get another kill on him. And this is the 3rd straight Poppy game for Santorin where he's looked really good. It has been very, very solid stuff from him. Across all 3 of those Poppy games, one was in a loss, but has been really looking nice. Already has his locket completed. Seeing some people tech into this, still do see a lot more even Shroud. Generally, you see Locket, against comps that are very burst heavy, trying to actually protect your backline from getting 100 to 0. So potentially just thinking, all right, they have a Nautilus, they have a Rakan, they have a Renekton, they have this powerful kind of initial engage, and the Locket's going to help save my carries.
Chime in some trouble, though. Dignitas, they found the support, and they want to take him down. Battle dances towards Bugi, but it cannot save him. Dignitas really making sure that gold lead has minimized.
Yeah, another kill there. Great job. Santorin finds it, and Jensen's able to pick up the kill. So Jensen going to be working pretty quickly towards his 2nd item here. Has tier 2 boots, has his Shiv, has that Hextech alternator, and a good 700 gold or so in pocket. So keeping pace at the very least here with Insanity, and does want to be that big threat because both these mages, in the mid lane, well, it is an AD carry, but kind of functions when you're playing AP more like a poke mage, honestly. When you're just spamming out Ws once you have that W evolve. So both these guys are going to be looking for heavy poke, and if Jensen can get ahead to the point where he is dominating that, as we're going to see Santorin die.
Ends up getting the Rift Herald here, and the last smack sends Bugi away, but he still got what he came for.
Yeah, that's tough. Going to be able to actually get that steal and kill off Santorin. And now this means you're going to lose your tier 1 for sure, and you're probably losing your tier 2. So great play from TSM. Going to be able to actually just push down mid. Not even actually going to commit the Herald. Instead, just going to take the free tier 1, save that Herald for later. Could be used top or could be used very likely after this reset to try to get access to this 3rd dragon, because the Infernal is spawning here in about 5 seconds, and TSM will want to continue that stack towards Soul.
Yeah, I was looking for a moment, Azael, like Dignitas were starting to grasp some control over the game. If they could pick up that 2nd Rift Herald, having that ahead of Dragon means that you can try and draw the attention of your opponent somewhere. But right now, it's TSM's attention on the top side. Teleports from both ends as Rich stands alone, but not for long. Chime under the turret. Rich burned down and popped by Insanity. Stunned up. Jensen tries to get out of this one, but the turret does eventually fall as Shelly has been thrown. A kill here, as TSM managed to grab 2 and make this push on the top side an effective one.
Yeah, it's a great play from TSM on the top side. They drop the Herald, they get the dive, they kill off both the Soul Laners, get the TP off Jensen, the flash off Rich, the ulti off the GP, everything going TSM's way. They'll take the tier 2 as well. Yes, Dignitas do get a dragon back, but honestly, who cares if you're TSM, because you are 4K up 17 minutes in. They've just created such an enormous lead. Objective bounties even going to be spawning here pretty soon for Dignitas. It's been a tough game for Dig. You know, their bot lane got so far behind early that they're kind of just relegated to playing on the back foot. You know, Tomo is likely going to be behind the entire game unless something really miraculous happens. But now TSM have been able to use that lead and spread it around the map. You know, Chime has been very active on the map, knows they were already winning heavily through bot. They just links up with Bugi, kind of repays the favor of Bugi spending so much time down towards that bot side, and they have been able to make really good things happen for TSM.
I think both pillars of that game plan for TSM are working out very well. Of course, Hauntzer doing everything he can on that top side to make sure that he sets it up when you can bring a Rift Herald over. But you've got two different damage threats in Insanity and WildTurtle that are feeling very, very rich right now. And then Bugi and Chime working in tandem with their engage. One of the things when it comes to picks like the Nautilus, like the Rell, that yes, can flex into that jungle position, but are often seen in support. When you put them in the jungle, that requires a lot more proactivity, a lot more of a game plan from the jungler to best utilize these tools, since you're not necessarily standing in a lane to have that defensive capability just to protect your carry. So also props to Bugi for making sure that they garnered these early advantages against Dignitas, in which they've had to try and find these Rift Herald plays, but were only successful half of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Bugi has been doing a great job. He's been having a good split here with TSM. I think has surprised a lot of people. I don't think there was super high expectations for him coming into summer, and has been doing a very good job. 4 kills now, though, for Insanity, 3 for Turtle. These guys are super strong. And you can see them playing towards that topside river. You know, it is 19 minutes in. They're starting to claim vision on that top side of the map to potentially play for a Baron. And you just look at this area. It's just fully blacked out. There's nothing for Dignitas to see up in that top quadrant of the map. And with double AD carry, you can kill Baron very quickly. So if Insanity and Turtle are off the map, Dignitas is going to have to respect the chance that they could be looking for a rushed Baron here very quickly after spawn, and they're going to have to be willing to respond to that, but there's the engage.
Over the wall, out of the darkness, 2 members fall, and Dignitas lose their top laner. TSM making the play and keeping this pressure on this mid turret, chunked down to half, but they'll take that kill and feel good about it.
Yeah, that was really nicely done. They find him over the wall with the ward. Chime goes over. The killer instinct is there from Insanity to follow up. And they get a quick burst kill there on the Rich, and then just move back into Fog. Dignitas is going to have to play out through mid before they can even get access to some of this vision out through river, because they're nervous. They don't know. Potentially, there's people playing over towards that Baron. It is a really dicey situation for them. More items being completed now. You know, Turtle has the Trinity Force already completed. You can see the Nashers has been done for Insanity. Looks like he's working towards a Luden's third, so going towards that more heavy poke style. Some people like the Luden, some people do go towards that Rage Blade. Both, you know, have their own kind of strengths and weaknesses, but if you're playing more heavily towards poke, of course the Luden's does make a lot of sense. And you can see how short that cooldown is. Every time you're tagging with the W, you're cutting the cooldown in half. So it's so important to actually dodge these, or the poke just never stops.
That damage very much stacks up, and just also granting that intel to TSM, having that long range seeking ability means that Dignitas, who are already worried about stepping into their own jungle, have to be that much more scared.
Absolutely. I mean, you're so far behind, so there's a massive vision advantage already on TSM. You have Void Seekers to actually be able to scout things out. You have Hawkshots to be able to scout things out. And now they're just going to start up the Baron with double AD carry, while Hauntzer fights Rich on that bot side. But this is going to go down really quick. Dignitas are aware of it. We'll see if they can make anything happen.
Teleport's available on both sides, and Poome goes into the back line. Keeper's Verdict means that Insanity's not here to deal the damage, but you still got multiple members of TSM to do exactly that, as Santorin is ripped away. Tomo soon to follow, does manage to get out of range of Hauntzer, who had already expelled his flash, but TSM set their sights on the Baron once more. Though Dignitas do have a rich teleport in the books, he already used his ultimate. Jensen collapsing from the opposite side. Can he get a lock onto Turtle? Some big blast damage from Rich here. Chime going in before he goes golden, and WildTurtle setting it up for Insanity to knock it down. Double kill for TSM as WildTurtle and the squad end up just finishing off the Baron, and Dignitas is nowhere to be seen.
Nicely done by TSM, destroying Dignitas by the Baron there. Rich had a couple of good barrels, which made you think for a moment maybe something can happen, but they all pile in on him. They finish him off before he can burst anyone down. And the initial fight, again, you know, it looks like a good engage here from Poome, but he just insta-dies. There's so much damage on the other side. And Poome is so far behind. Yes, there's a great keeper's verdict, knocking out an Insanity. But in the back end of the fight, Hauntzer has already pushed out Tomo. He's fighting off Tomo and Jensen, forces the summoners out. Rich comes in with the TP, and he hits back-to-back barrels that do soften up a lot of the TSM members. But there's no one really there to follow it up. Jensen already uses spells. This first one connects on Turtle and Chime. Then he actually gets another one right here that connects onto Insanity. So Insanity almost dies. Hauntzer almost dies. But they pile in. They kill off Rich. And as Jensen tries to go in to make something happen, he doesn't have the health and he gets burst down as he's distorting forward. And this one is pretty much all but over now. TSM 3 dragons already to their name. They have the Baron. They have an 8K gold lead. They can clear off the remaining outer towers here from the map. And with Rich split pushing on top side and having no TP, TSM can threaten any sort of dive they see.
Yeah, there's some bounties available for Dignitas, but not much more than that, as TSM feel like they have all the power in their hands with the Red Bull Baron buff still in effect. But Keeper's verdict for one to be thrown away. Poome attempting to get right into his backline after taking way too much damage, but has now fallen. So Dignitas corralled under this inhibitor turret. Hauntzer venturing forward with Dominus pop. Bugi's nice and healthy. Multiple members that can just stand with this cannon minion to make sure they take that inhibitor turret and then some.
Yeah, it is going to be a couple of towers traded back on the top side. But again, TSM knew there was no fear to dive here. There's nothing that's really going to go wrong when Rich is on that top side. So they pull the trigger on the dive. They get a tier 2 of their own. They take down that inhibitor tower and the inhibitor. And yes, the gold lead has been cut down a little bit because of those objective bounties. So it's going to be a lot of gold in the pockets of Rich here, who's richest member on his team, but is still quite a bit behind where Insanity is. It's still so much in control of TSM, and they're going to have full map control now with supers crashing down through bot. They can look to play 2 lanes, just play through mid and top, and look to potentially finish off this game here relatively quickly. Even if they can't find an angle for a dive or something to close it out, they can easily play towards Soul. So TSM has all the cards in their hand.
And while there are many flashes missing on TSM side, they have almost all their ultimates, as the Enchanted Crystal Arrow was just thrown down, sidestepped by Dignitas. But look at how much damage Tomo was able to take from that poke. And these Void Seekers are going to keep coming from Insanity to zone off the weakest of the Dignitas members when it comes to health. But this turret's just going to keep getting knocked on.
Yeah, it's tough. They're struggling to even actually take down the cannon. Now the Baron buff finally expires, so Baron buff cannon minion is gone. Nice little distort back to dodge the hook from Bugi, but now TSM sees the turret is incredibly low, sees that supers are coming in through bots, so they can just walk forward, knock down this turret. Likely just going to be going back and not playing it too risky, just continue playing through top, let the supers crash through these other waves. They don't need to do anything too risky. They have a lot of gold in pocket, and they know they have that soul win condition still here in 2 minutes, so just continue playing through these lanes, forcing down towards the inhibitors. Insanity can keep fishing for poke, keep fishing with volleys and potential arrows coming through from Turtle. If you find the angle, you dive, you win the game. If you don't, you just play for Infernal.
Yeah, all of the options available for TSM. It's their own choose your own adventure, whereas Dignitas are just trying to get back to their single ending. Hopefully a happy one for them, but it's difficult with what TSM has been able to do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's looking pretty grim for Dignitas at this point. It's not much of a choose your own adventure when all the men in defeat, you know?
I do feel like they've stepped somewhat into a horror game, you know, with the darkness around them. They just can't see far and are just awaiting that sweet death by the hand of TSM, who have felt pretty good in this game, really capitalized upon their early leads on the bot side. And you know, those early dragon stacking meant that even when Dignitas were able to get some sort of trades, they lose their potency.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was the biggest difference here. Insanity has been great through the mid game, but so much of this game, so much of this lead really did stem from the early game, from the lead that Turtle and Chime created, from the level 1 invade that TSM orchestrated, and then we're able to slam home that advantage by just having Bugi zoning Tomo and Poome off. Then when they finally are able to get access to some minions, Bugi straight down towards bot, you know, uses his flash to actually get a kill on Tomo, who was missing his flash still. And sure, Tomo has a lot of farm now, but he has not been a factor in this game whatsoever. He's still down an item. And Turtle was able to, you know, move up towards top side, win a Herald fight for them. Chime was really active on the map. And it was all these things that really started to spill over. And TSM did a great job to extend their advantages from what was created in that bot lane 2v2.
And right now, making sure that they keep up that pressure. Hauntzer has been ushering the wave down bot, which will now be answered by Rich. But you can see the way Bugi's throwing out those Qs. All of TSM just awaiting the opening against Dignitas, who don't have any coverage. They don't have the security of the turrets on mid or bot, and are much more vulnerable. You see what happens anytime the Void Seekers connect with Tomo.
And you can see what TSM are doing, right? They're just trying to play in this section of the map. They're trying to clear out as many wards as possible. There's that one pink ward, and that's about it. That's giving vision over to their opponents. They want to control this area, and now they're going to be able to find a pick.
Santorin, the first knock by it, and as Chime goes in, he attempts to bring down Dignitas, setting up for Hauntzer to get into the backline. Rich is taking a lot of damage, a good chunk onto TSM through that cannon barrage, which means that his sanity eventually gets knocked down. Hauntzer attempting to flash over for Rich, but cannot find it, will be punished as soon as he comes out of stasis. Does he want to bring one more life down with them? He does! Jensen locking down with the ethereal chains, and Tomo finally getting to put some damage up in this fight. 2 for 2 traded. But in the end, TSM, they grab that dragon.
Yeah, they get the Infernal Soul, so they get that big prize, but a nice engage from Poome. I think catching TSM a little bit off guard, and that counter engage came through. And Tomo did get a couple kills, including a 1K shutdown from Insanity. If they can find even more here.
Jensen's going for more onto Bugi. He throws down the Riptide. Chime and WildTurtle both get locked. Jensen goes golden, and the root onto Tomo means he has to just take the damage as it's ditched out. 4 taken down by Dignitas, and TSM still have WildTurtle and Bugi to push on in.
Yeah, the initial burst was good there from Dignitas, but Turtle cuts through them, and TSM looking to end here in sub 30 minutes. Move to 7-6, move to 7-3, more importantly, with Insanity. This team is on a tear.
One last arrow to do it. 2 teams entered this match as equals, but in the end, it's TSM out on top.
Another great game here from TSM. Insanity 11-2-4 on the Kaisa. Turtle with a huge game as well, 7-0-8 on the Ashe. Deathless for him. Chime was everywhere. The level 1 plan was really good with Bugi, and he was able to link up with that bot lane and slam home the advantage, create a massive lead for them through that bot side, and TSM never really let it go. Just smooth sailing, it felt like, from the early minutes from TSM all the way to the victory.
And while Dignitas did have some moments, I think Santorin with some key targets with the ultimate. And last time around, in fact, Santorin and Dignitas did defeat TSM when he played Poppy, but this time it was a different story.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, at the end of the day, I think TSM should be really happy with their performance here. Dignitas, obviously a frustrating loss for them. They want to be able to take down these teams that are around them in the standings. They want to continue to climb up towards the top of the table. But things went very bad for the bot lane early, and it's difficult to recover from that. You know, TSM, I think, did a great job to snowball that lead, but it is tough, and that's kind of one of the risks I think you run when you are bringing in a brand new support here, potentially haven't had a lot of practice together. This was a good fight, though, from Dignitas. You know, they were very far behind at this point. The counter engage from Poome was really nice. And we could see Tomo, you know, was able to kind of find an angle here as TSM looked for the re-engage. Flash, Gale Force in, 1K shutdown on Insanity. Tomo finding an opportunity for aggression here as Hauntzer was in the backline. There wasn't really any damage around because Turtle was over on the Dragon. Hauntzer, though, you know, flexing his muscles, able to get a kill in what was a 1v4 as his team does claim the Infernal Soul. But it was a small victory for Dignitas. They knew they would need way more for this. So they wanted to try to turn it into a bear and see, okay, can we actually go from here, get a bear and get an objective bounty, you know, maybe actually have a real chance of coming back. But of course it was not to be as Turtle chopped them all down over by the Baron, and that secured the victory for TSM.
Yeah, Turtle, congrats again to him for his most played games. It was 615, I think it was, or
maybe
something
612,
like
right around there.
Somewhere around there. It's been a pleasure watching him throughout all these years. But a reminder that Fantasy LCS is happening over on Sleeper right now. Make sure you lock in your picks and bans for next week's games if you want to top your league. When it comes to this game, we are joining Emily and WildTurtle on stage for our Verizon post-game interview.
Thank you very much. It could only be an interview with WildTurtle after you broke the all-time games record. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
One thing that I don't think I've asked you yet is if you right now could go back and tell your younger self back in like season 1 that you were going to break the all-time like pro play games in NA record, what would you say to yourself? Like, or what would your younger self think?
I think it's to be expected. You know, he was a little gamer. You know, he played a lot of video games. So here I am, still playing video games.
Nice, let's go. Obviously, you and Chime absolutely crushed the bot lane early off of, I guess, a few mistakes that Dig's bot lane made, but also off of an early level 1. So in looking at this kind of double AD carry comp with the Kai'Sa mid and then Ashe bot, was this a plan from the get-go, or was just like, oh no, we got this, we can just absolutely zone them off the wave and keep them at level 1?
It might have been our coach's plan or Bugi's. I don't know who it was, but like, you know, I just went into the game, playing the game, and I'm like, oh wow, we can dive them bot now. That sounds good.
In terms of like team communication, one thing that we've kind of wondered, especially with Chime going in a lot of like the engage, like as the primary engage for a lot of this, who is making, I guess, the biggest calls on the team, or like what your communication system has been?
We don't really actually have a huge shot call in our team. The loudest voice would definitely be Bugi. But for us, it's just kind of like democratic, and whatever we see, we kind of do.
What plays does Bugi call for? Because it seems like both him and Insanity are kind of like, they just want to go in all the time.
Well, he just streams go, 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 like every time, like even when we want to run, so.
Nice. Well, I mean, as long as you guys follow up, that's all that matters,
Yep.
right? All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join me. And honestly, congratulations on the achievement. That's amazing.
Thank you very much.
And on the other side of this, I believe we have Evil Geniuses taking on Golden Guardian, so stay tuned.
Like, I feel like I'm 40. I have to retire or something, bro. Maybe.
No. I mean, you're actually Faker, though.
Like, me and Faker are twins, bro. Like, he plays the same thing as me. When his wrist is hurting, my wrists are hurting. Like, I don't know. Faker and Chovy actually just copy me. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
It's kind of weird.
No, it's actually weird.
You're becoming old.
True.
Yeah, we should help.
Yo, watch me here. I can TP. I'm TPing.
Flawless Mia.
Ashe is mid.
No flash? What do they have?
No flash, no fight, no ult.
Look mid.
He has no flash 20 seconds.
Okay, I'm sure.
No flash 20 seconds.
Yeah.
No E.
No flash for ult.
He should be dead.
Good job. Can we just finish?
Yeah, we can finish.
Smite together. Fricke.
Okay.
Yo, watch my position, I can flank.
Look, Puppy's looking to
Yo,
ult.
look my position, I can flank.
No, they flash me. Help me. Oh, yeah, we need Rell.
We win.
They flash me. They used everything on me, guys. They used everything on me. You should win. Help chase.
Yeah.
Keep going. Play with me.
No
Split me.
flash.
I'm gonna base TP behind them.
No flash.
Lucy, no flash.
No, too much.
Yo, let me in Aphelios farm. We need the stats.
Wait, no.
I've got the Samsung 990 Pro series. Shall we get started then? This speed exceeds all expectations. Reading speeds are 40% quicker than before, and writing speeds are 55% faster. With the in-house controller, the per watt performance has improved up to 50%. The 990 Pro's nickel coating controller for its smart thermal solution technology controls you. Playing computer games? Obviously the best.